Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Deity again. I recently just released a pre-patch video talking about what I thought would be the best builds to run for pre-patch. And although I stand by the builds that I mentioned in that video, I wanted to add another Mythic Plus build to that list. The Necrolord Fire Nova build that I showed you guys in that other video is basically a less complex version of the build I'm about to show you now. Now, if you're brand new to Enhancement or still learning it, I don't recommend running this build since it is a lot more complex. But if you're up for the challenge, I highly encourage you guys to try it out. It is a lot of fun. So what makes this build unique is you run a brand new legendary that enhancements don't normally run. This legendary is called Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. Now what's interesting about this legendary is that this is an elemental shaman legendary. So we are in fact going to be losing on half the benefit of this legendary. But the effect that we're looking to gain from is Flame Shock has a 50% increased critical strike chance. Now that seems pretty underwhelming in itself, but the reason we're taking this legendary is so we can pair it with the Venthyr Covenant legendary. This legendary causes the Venthyr ability Chain Harvest to reduce the cooldown of itself by 1 second every time a Flame Shock critically strikes. Essentially, with this combination, you're reducing the cooldown of Chain Harvest significantly. Where this build gets really interesting is when we look at the talents. The build setup is very similar to the fire build that I did in my last video, except instead of talenting into Elemental Spirits, we're talenting into Primordial Wave. With Primordial Wave, you want to grab rank 2 Primal Maelstrom and Splintered Elements. Primal Maelstrom allows our Primordial Wave to generate 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon when we cast it, and Splintered Elements causes our Lightning Bolt to generate 10% haste per target struck. If you don't know already, when you cast Primordial Wave, your next Lightning Bolt will hit all targets affected by your Flame Shock. Currently, the max amount of targets you can have Flame Shock on at once is 6. With this talent, you're effectively gaining 60% haste for 12 seconds on a 45-second cooldown. Haste also buffs our Flame Shock tick rate, which is obviously good for that legendary combo that we talked about earlier. What makes this build complicated is you're running 2 Covenant abilities rather than 1, and making sure you use them both efficiently can be tricky. But once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad at all. The rest of the build is a standard Hot Hands Fire Nova build, but you still run Swirling Maelstrom for the Maelstrom generation. Now that you have the talent set up, let's talk about how to effectively play this build. The goal of this build is to simply cast Chain Harvest and Primordial Wave off cooldown while utilizing the haste buff that Primordial Wave gives you. Whenever you cast Primordial Wave, make sure to always follow up with a 10 Maelstrom stack Lightning Bolt. Because we're running Overwhelming Maelstrom, we want to make sure we're utilizing that damage from Lightning Bolt as much as possible. In fact, if you manage to do this properly after every Primordial Wave, your Lightning Bolt damage will be double your Chain Lightning damage. I should point out that there's also a talent in the Shaman class tree called Improved Lightning Bolt. Taking this talent will increase your Lightning Bolt damage by an additional 20%, which is absolutely necessary for this build. Additionally, you want to try and apply as many Lashing Flames debuffs as you can. This is often easiest to do in your hot hand windows. If you manage to do all of that and avoid overcapping Maelstrom by spending on Chain Lightning, your damage will be absolutely nuts. If you play this build properly, your damage breakdown should look like this. Your Flame Shock damage should always be number 1, followed closely by Lava Lash. Beneath that, you have Fire Nova and Lightning Bolt doing nearly half of all that damage. The other abilities following that are basically AoE cooldowns you want to cast whenever possible. Like any other class, there are pros and cons to running this build. The pros are that when you run this build, you are easily one of the strongest AoE classes in the game, and you're easily able to compete with other meta Mythic Plus classes. This build is also strong because you're able to spam Chain Harvest, which is a super massive heal for your entire team. It has come in clutch many times for my team, and the healers love it. One of the cons to this build are that you do lose a lot of your single target damage since you're not able to run Elemental Spirits. Another con to this build is that it's very complicated to play and hard to keep up with, but it's super rewarding when you play it correctly. And that just about concludes the video. I'm going to leave highlights of the video playing so you guys can see how this build plays. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I'll post the import string to this build in the description below. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I'll get back to them as quickly as I can. Or if you'd rather have a verbal response, you can ask me them when I'm live on Twitch. I stream fairly often at twitch.tv/lfdeity, so you can always catch me there if you want to do so. I hope you guys have plenty of fun with this build. Please be sure to let me know your thoughts on it because I'm genuinely curious what you guys think about it. Thank you guys so much again. Good luck and have fun.